Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Galactic Reviews, where we're going to be talking about the new Transformers movies, Transformers 1. So, just to get into this, this is the origin story of the Transformers, correct? Oh, they're
Yeah,
trying to restart
this
from
is
the
this is
beginning?
like
Is that what
I think
That's
this is
what I'm
just
understanding, but I don't know if this is just a one shot or if this is going to be a continuation for like a small franchise.
I don't know, I just took it as like a retelling of the origin stories of Megatron and Optimus Prime. That's
It's got the
Okay.
potential to be a series,
it
but
could, yeah.
I think from what I read, it
It's
all
just a one
depended
shot so
on
far.
how well it did in the box office, and I don't think it did too great in the box office, if I remember.
I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure.
Think
Yeah,
of it like Batman Year One.
got you. Oh, yeah, it's just a retelling of an origin story for Optimus Prime and Megatron. I don't know how I specifically feel about it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. At this point, I'm just tired of Transformers movies, to be perfectly honest.
Well, when was the
I
last one?
enjoyed it
The live action one with it was the Rise of the
with
Beast,
Hmm.
right? That was
yes.
what, last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That one wasn't that good.
No.
This was better than that. I'll give them that. But I don't know, just going from all of the most recent Transformers movies have been live action, and then we're going back to animated Transformers. That was a big, hard switch for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the old style for Transformers, but it was mostly the dynamic between Optimus Prime and Megatron, especially the names. I haven't don't know much about them before they became Optimus Prime and Megatron, but I thought they always had their names and they didn't
Uh
change it to those specific names. I thought Optimus was Optimus and then he gave the title of Prime.
no. In the old I don't know the comics, so forgive me on that lore, but on
I
the
don't
in the
know.
old cartoon, he was it started out like he was originally a robot named Orion Pax, and then he and his girlfriend Ariel at the time and a friend of his all got bombarded by Megatron and his Decepticons. A lot of them got damaged. A whole bunch of other robots brought Orion Pax to Alpha Trion. Alpha Trion bought rebuild him back up as Optimus Prime.
Okay.
I don't
So
it
it
yeah.
is that is his original name, but for Megatron, that was one that
Yeah.
was odd for me.
So it depends on the different lore. I think this is going more off of the more recent comics because I mean
Okay.
in the Prime one in the Prime TV show he was a gladiator that rose into popularity. I think this one, which I mean you kind of see, they kind of hint towards when he like in gladiator mode with against Starscream in that one scene. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I think D16 that D16 name is coming from I think more recent comic book stuff where he's a
Okay.
miner and him and Orion Pax end up forming this friendship and end up doing kind of what this movie did, just not as well in a cinematic format. More so, they just try to take down the system in
Yeah.
the comic books, whereas in this one, it's a very much false face system.
Okay. Because yeah, I don't know much of the lore behind like comic book stuff and everything. I've seen
Yeah.
the TV show. It's been a long time, and I've seen pretty much all of the other movies. So I know bits and pieces. I don't know the finer details such as that. Um,
Well, I don't know
but
all the
other
fine
than
details either.
yeah,
I'm just,
but other than that, I I'm going to give this movie probably a 6.5. It was good, but it's just the same thing. It's more Transformers, and I'm just tired of it, me personally. For a writing standpoint, I thought it was pretty good. For a Transformers movie, I thought it was pretty good for a writing standpoint. But then again, I don't know much of the background and story of the Transformers. Um, so I don't know how accurate it is, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
that, yeah, it was a okay movie.
Yeah. Andrew, me or you?
I'll go. I thought it was pretty good. I know zero about Transformers. Absolute zero. I know three names: Bumblebee, Megatron, and Optimus Prime.
And
That
you got
is
all three of
all I
them.
know.
All three of
Huh?
them were in this movie for you. They
Yeah,
knew they made it just for you.
they did. I know zero about
Hey,
Transformers.
look, my favorite was in this movie, Jazz.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I've all of the Transformers movies that I've seen, I kind of feel the same way about them that I do about like the Godzilla or King Kong movies, where I'm just like, wow, big robots, big explosion, cool fights. I
Yeah,
didn't care about the stories. Like, I haven't seen many of the Transformers movies. I never grew up watching the show. Like, I have zero background in Transformers. This is the first Transformers movie that I genuinely enjoyed. The story, the characters, the world building, the lore behind it. This was the first time I had watched anything Transformers that made me go, "Oh, this is really interesting. I want to know more about the story now." So from someone who has not seen or knows any of the backstory or any of the canonical details, non-movie details, I thought it was very good. I thought this was the second best animated movie that I've seen this year. I'd put Wild Robot just slightly above it. I think Wild Robot looks prettier, soundtrack is better. Um, and I just like the story is a little bit more hard hitting. Um, but it was really good. It was a great adventure action movie. Um, it made me interested in Transformers for the first time. I was very skeptical about the voice acting roles and the actors that they chose for it. And in the beginning, I was like, that's not Optimus Prime. Granted, I couldn't really tell it was Chris Hemsworth, other than a handful of lines where he wasn't fully American, just like his inflection slipped
mm,
slightly to how he kind of sounds as Thor sometimes. For the most part, I was like, that doesn't sound like the Chris Hemsworth I'm used to hearing. So I was happy with that. And then at the end of the movie, when his voice fully switched into the more stoic, serious character of Optimus Prime, I was like, oh yeah, this actually fits.
I think
Uh,
that was probably one of my favorite finer details of this movie, the kind of switch between the
yeah,
childish to the more um leadership
yeah,
role.
I really like that. Megatron's character just annoyed me the entire movie. I think that part was not that well written, because it just there was the switch I feel like was too drastic. He wasn't that hot-headed
Mm.
in the beginning. He was seemed to be a little bit more reserved, a little more cautious, just kind of wanted to stay in his lane and do things. And then all of a sudden a flip switched and he was just hell bent. I would have liked to see him being a little bit, I guess, more of an angrier character to begin with.
Mm,
Maybe lashing out a little bit more than just being like, man, what the heck, to Orion in the beginning, but like showing some of those angry, aggressive tendencies instead of a flip being switched as soon as he found out the truth.
yeah, no, I
Um,
agree with
Um,
that.
I disagree with that actually, but
Other than that, wasn't a huge fan of Keegan-Michael Key for Bumblebee. I think the way he delivered the lines was good. I just think his voice, he didn't change it at all. It sounded like Keegan-Michael Key, and I cannot separate his voice from who he is as a person because I've seen too many of his comedy skits. I know who he is. I've seen him in other things, and I'm like, that doesn't sound to me. I'm like, this is Keegan-Michael Key playing Bumblebee, and I'm not watching Bumblebee. Similar kind of to Scarlett Johansson. I was like, that is Scarlett Johansson. I could hear it.
Hmm.
This is not like, oh, I recognize this voice from a voice actor because they're a recognizable voice actor. I was like, I know that actor. I see your face when you talk and not the character that's talking. Those are probably my only two complaints. The rest of it, I really enjoyed.
All right. Payson?
So I'd give it a seven. I'd give it a seven just for the
Mm,
pure fact that it was a movie that made me want to know more after the movie ended.
fair enough. Payson?
I thought it was good. I also saw this not long after I think I saw this before I saw Wild Robot, but yeah, no, both of these were kind of competing for like animation movie at the time that they were both out. Well, I do think Wild Robot had the better animation. I think this had the better story, at least main story wise, with D16 and Optimus Prime. You kind of got to see a good friendship kind of splinter off based on like different pursuits on how they wanted to how they wanted to help correct their broken world, I guess. I like the rise for Orion Pax to become Optimus Prime. I think that was very well handled, along with the fall of D16. I thought that was also very well handled because of and I get your point, Andrew, that you made with the switch kind of happening rapidly. But you also at that time you also got to take into account, which I don't think they applied this that heavily, that Megatronus was like his hero
Mhm.
and like basically meant his whole world, and a lot of his whole world was revolved around following the rules set by this guy that he trusted and looked up to. And then all of a sudden that getting twisted around and he's just got nothing but rage. So seeing him twist that rage into something, it to me
I
it
mean,
made sense,
it
but
may, I mean, I suppose if they gave it in like a single scene where you could see the more of a switch for him mentally breaking it down or explaining it to that extent than just switching like that, I think it would have been easier for the whole audience, people who don't know and do know,
That
to
and also
understand
just
the switch.
if Orion is your best friend in the whole world since forever, like they are tight.
Oh yeah.
This one thing, there wasn't even like a little bit of just like a confusion being confronted by your best friend. It was
Well, it's
literally
not just
like a
that.
hell-bent
It's also the
attack.
fact of like the dude shoots him, catches him, and he's like, you know what, never mind, and lets him go.
Granted, that standoff at the very end was awesome. Kick butt.
Yes,
Just
but
the refusing to kneel. That was awesome.
well, yes, but I'm like, it's mostly the how quickly he dives into the betrayal for um his best friend. I think
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. We needed to see more of, I
yeah,
guess, him getting to that point instead of it just kind of, it just seemed really quick of him switching to just absolutely hating him.
yeah. And I think I could agree with you guys on that point. On that, it needed to be better shown, but I got what they were going for.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this kind of ties into my next point. I did not like care much for the side characters of Bumblebee and Elita One. I didn't really see their purpose in there, other than one was the comedy foil, and then one was supposed to be the straight laced kind of character that kind of followed the rules and was hell bent on following the rules. But other than that, it made no other
I
than
mean,
the being typecast, it made no sense for them being in there. Other than one was a popular one and one was the girl toy. That was
It was
I
just
mean,
a just reason for them to have more characters in there, more
yeah,
fan
well,
service. Be like,
that
look,
and
Bumblebee.
let's be honest. Nowadays, when you think Transformers, the first person you think of is Bumblebee, not Optimus Prime anymore.
I wouldn't say that
To
completely,
I
but
some,
feel like
to
it's a
some people,
50-50. I
to
it's
feel like
some.
it's a
probably well, I'd
50-50.
say it's in between the ones that were on the screen, Megatron, Optimus, and Bumblebee. I'd say
Well,
when you
true.
think
Yeah.
Transformers, you think
When
of
you
those
think, okay,
three.
then let me split it to when you think of Autobots,
Yeah, you probably think of Optimus or
Bumblebee,
Bumblebee. Yep.
Yeah.
when
Which
obviously
is probably
Cliff
why
Jumper is
they
the better
chose
choice,
which is probably why they chose Bumblebee over like other characters that maybe would have made more sense comparing like
such as
lore wise,
Jazz, Cliff. I
such as
mean,
like
they still
Jazz
put
or
Jazz, Cliff Jumper would
Ironhide.
have,
Cliff Jumper, not so much.
I mean,
But
maybe because of how loyal he is to, but I could see
yeah,
that showing up more later,
like if they
if
were to
they
do like a
decide to make this
war,
as a sequel.
if they were to
Yeah.
like to do like a Quintesson war
Hmm.
or like a Decepticon Autobot war, Civil War. I could see that being like them having other characters in there, making them
Yeah.
very. But
The
Lita one's the
only
one where I don't
yeah,
I get why she's there because they obviously need the girl Autobot, but other than that, I don't I don't care that much for her. And the moments where they try to make her shine, I don't like it. Um, Specifically the one scene where Soundwave and Shockwave are like trying to like argue with Optimus, or at that point Orion Pack still about whether or not following into battle and having him talk, and then she just blindsides him, which is funny to some degree, and
it
I
it
get why it's meant to
it
be a
was an
gag.
odd yeah, but it was still an odd thing to do in general.
And then after
Um,
that, they then argue with him some more, like saying, "Why should we fight for you?" She then clenches her, does the power pose, I guess, of like doing the fist and palm thing, and then they say automatically, like, "We will fight for you." She's not that tough. She blindsided you, but I get it was meant to also be a gag, but it just,
it was a weird like
yeah,
way to make those two characters submit
yeah, like
to
it was a weird way to do it in order to get them to
um
go forward with and follow
the
Optimus
yeah, the
begrudgingly.
only other thing I had it wasn't really a problem, but it was odd. The voice of Starscream.
I thought it was okay. Um,
It was just so high pitched and everything. I mean, I guess I understand based off the name they were trying to make a joke out of it.
well, are you talking about the one where he essentially goes where the voice gets damaged?
I mean, oh well, yeah, no, I forget he does damage his voice. But
And I think that's supposed to more so mimic the voice he has in the old cartoon, if I'm not
well,
mistaken.
yeah, but it just seemed a lot more childish, I guess, from
Yeah,
seeing this. He just didn't seem he wasn't intimidating at all.
yeah.
And when
So,
I think of him, I think of someone extremely intimidating who struck fear into pretty much all of the Autobots.
and most of the Decepticons,
Hmm.
which is why he was second in command. Like, and they kind of hint towards that because he was still like the boss, but we just didn't get to see that
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
So, like I said, there's a whole bunch of things where they do a whole bunch of side things with the Bumblebee and Elita One, which aren't necessary that they could have done and used elsewhere and had a better character story, I guess. But I don't know. It's like it was good in some areas, but then not as well done in others, and that was probably the most disappointing part about this.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's still one of the better Transformers movies we've had in a good while.
yeah. No, I'd agree. I'd say it was pretty good. I think the story was better than Wild Robot. But I think animation was better in Wild Robot. Um,
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to see Wild Robot yet.
the main story that they were going for with the Orion Pax and Optimus and Megatron essentially. I think that was a better story, but I think they just kind of dropped the ball in some areas, which they could have been better told or
Yeah,
expounded upon.
yeah. I could see this if they decided to do a sequel. I could see it being better than this movie. More so if it's going to be more into a split of the war. And if you do it, it could kind of lead into what we already know of
Mm-hmm.
Transformers from the last few movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even still, I don't know. It just depends on how they want to do it, if they even want to do it.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's an all right. I think it's an all right movie. It has flaws. I think we've kind of discussed them, but
It has flaws, but it has potential as well.
yeah. So I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Anybody got anything else?
I don't think so. I think this is a pretty straightforward movie, like
Yeah.
for Transformers, if you
So
know it already.
essentially, they have an outline for a sequel and even up to a trilogy, but it really just all depends on the box office, and it did not do good its opening weekend.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not surprised this it's a Transformers movie that they decided to make it animated instead of live action.
Yeah. Well, I will
So
say what I did like about this movie is that it focused less on human characters and actually focused on the Transformers.
then again, I'm a big fan of whenever they are actually on Cybertron.
Yeah, and that's also another big thing. Like
I
they're
always
also on
liked
Cybertron, and
yeah, I always liked the story when they're on Cybertron and not off anywhere else.
yeah,
It just seems more like their movie and not them as a side character kind of.
yeah. Which I think is what's going to have to happen. Like when they do, if they were to do more Transformers movies, it would have to, and if they were to focus on the Transformers, it would
Mhm.
have to be animation. Because if they were to do like live action, like kind of live action CGI, it makes sense why they have human character elements or human beings in there because that's less money that they got to use and everything.
Yeah,
So
but I don't know. We'll have to see what they decide to do with it.
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it if they were to do more of these, but they also might wait a while in order for everything to kind of die down a little bit and say, let's
Maybe.
try it again.
Well, they've already thought about that, and they made Bumblebee, and then they made whatever the last movie they made was
Rise of the Beast, and that was not
Rise of the
good.
Beast.
Yep.
So it at this point, it's the same thing they've done to X-Men.
I mean, we'll see. They could still drop it and just say, screw it. We make enough money off the toys. It might be worth it based on the toy sales.
It could be. It could
So,
be. I mean, they always sell well.
yeah. Also, whenever this does go out on streaming, that'll be the real test for like when kids buy the toys and stuff.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. It's hard to tell on this one, considering that it's mostly a toy brand.
That yeah, but there's not that many toys that's going to be out for this one. There's
No, but
just
it
going to be
might.
like five characters.
True, true, but it might still be like a rise in like Transformer sales overall.
That's true.
Because
It could be
kids might want a Transformers toy, and they might not get one from the movie, but they could still get one from.
from other things. Yeah.
And they made the ones in the movie look enough like the old, um, ones in the
Uh,
cartoon and
cartoons
the
design.
yep.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
way it could easily be like, oh yeah, this one's this guy, and it's like, oh okay, cool.
Why
So
is my Bumblebee red?
don't worry about it.
That's not Bumblebee. Don't
He
insult him.
don't insult Cliff Jumper. He's
He's
got
far
a different
superior.
he's got a different head mold and everything.
Yeah. That the only difference.
I thought he was a different car.
Uh, I think they're slightly different, but they're pretty much identical.
Eh,
I think it's a different paint job and a slightly different body, but they're mm, like pretty
we're
much
gonna
identical.
we're gonna get a Transformers person that's actually gonna know what they're talking about and be like, no, 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 you got it all wrong.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Let me know. Tell me I'm wrong.
All right. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Galactic Reviews. Join us next time. We'll be watching the Joker 2 or Joker Folie à whatever it's called.
Yep.
Tried so hard not to say it like and try to sound French at all.
Oh, yeah, dude.
There you go. And we'll see you next time on Galactic Reviews.